Hi, I'm Christian Brindle, and welcome to the Everything Medicare Podcast. What's up, Everything Medicare Podcast Nation? This is Christian Brindle. Wherever you are and however you might be listening to me today, thank you so much for taking the time. And folks, I'm back. I'm back from a 2-week hiatus. We are back after taking about 2 weeks off. So my wife and I took some time. We went up into Park City, which is about an hour away. And spent about a weekend in the mountains, just got away, spent time with my 1-year-old daughter. My wife and I got to spend some time together. And it was a nice, relaxing break and recharge from bringing you episodes. As I explained before we left, this schedule that we stick to week in and week out, year-round for the most part, with very short hiatuses and very few hiatuses at that, we basically, folks, it can get a little bit draining, point blank. It can get a little bit draining. But we're back. I feel recharged, and I'm so happy to be back with you and appreciate your patience to everybody that listens to us week in and week out. This is episode 204. If you're unfamiliar with me, my name is Christian Brindle. I'm a Medicare health plan specialist, expert. I'm a licensed insurance agent, and I own an insurance agency called Christian Brindle Insurance Services located just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. We work with people in 10 states, those states being Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, California, Texas, Virginia, South Carolina, and Florida. Again, that's Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, California, Texas, South Carolina, Virginia, and Florida, the Sunshine State. And we have access to all of the different insurance companies available in the industry, and we work with some of the biggest insurance companies that do business in the Medicare world, whether it be Medicare Supplements or Medicare Advantage or whatever the case might be. And we've been doing this show for a little bit over 2 years now, bringing you information that nobody wants you to know. Not only do they not want you to know it, they don't put it out themselves. There is no other show for consumers and beneficiaries like this one on the internet, period, that gives you quality information like we do. There have been several times over our journey that we have probably given more information than is even compliant for us to give. And we've had somebody reach out and let us know, hey, knock that off. And that's just the way that it is, folks. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The government has a lot of rules and regulations. Some of them make sense. Some of them are to protect you as seniors from people trying to take advantage of you, people trying to feed you misinformation, blah, blah, blah. But the other thing is, some of the rules absolutely make no sense whatsoever, and some of them prevent certain pieces of information from hitting your ears. It almost makes me think, and I've always been a believer of this, and I mightn't get in trouble for making a statement like this, but it almost makes me think, personally, that they have a vested interest in basically keeping you in the dark in certain aspects. But that's just me being a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. And no, I don't have a tinfoil hat on my head right now. But that's just me from the inside of the industry looking out. But anyway, folks, I digress. Today we're talking about a topic that we haven't talked about a whole lot on this show. We've had some very, very well-known experts on the show come and talk to us about this. People like David Duford, people like Nick Frumpkin, people like Matt Murray, and in addition to that, I've done some personal episodes myself on this. Now, we don't do a tremendous amount of burial coverage for customers and clients, but we do them here in our office. We don't do them in every state that we're licensed to do business in, but we do them in quite a few, and we thought that this would be an interesting topic to kind of talk about. So what is burial coverage? First and foremost, what is burial coverage? Well, there's a lot of things that people think of when they think of burial coverage. They think of basically, a plan where you're picking out a plot and all this stuff. And no, that's not what burial insurance coverage is. Typically, when you see burial coverage on television, final expense coverage, whatever they're deeming it or calling it, it's always 99 times out of 100, unless it's being marketed to you from like a funeral home or something like that, and they're trying to sell you a package or a plot or something like that. It's usually a small little type of whole life insurance policy. For those of you who don't know, whole life insurance is life insurance that's supposed to, no pun intended, last for your whole life. A lot of times the way that they'll work is they basically will stay put until you reach the age of 100. Once you reach the age of 100, they typically pay you out your benefit. Now, a burial policy is basically also known as final expense in the industry. They call it that because it's designed to cover your final expenses, a cremation, a burial, maybe just a little cushion for your family. It's a life insurance policy. Whatever your family wants to do with it, they can. But there's a lot of different types of organizations and commercials and companies that market to people. Usually you're looking at anywhere between, it could be as little as a few $1,000s of coverage. It could be as high as maybe $30,000, $40,000 of coverage. And the good plans anyway have some certain characteristics to them, and that's what we're going to talk about on this episode today. And then there's also some ones that just get shoved down your throat all the time that have some fine print that you need to know about, that primarily don't make them as good. Folks, I have to take a quick break, hear from our sponsor, and I'll be back in segment 2 to kind of complete this episode. This is only going to be a 2-segment episode, so we only have one break this time around. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody! Thanks so much for sticking with me through that break. Folks, in life, people are always looking to get the best possible deal they can. People are obsessed with it. Coupons, discounts, 2 for 1, buy 2, get 1 free. Insurance is no different. I mean, look at an organization like Geico. They're probably one of the premier names in car insurance and auto insurance. Now, auto insurance is not my specialty, and I'm by no means an expert at it, but one thing I can tell you is typically, that phrase, 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance, those low premiums, it's worked out well for a company like Geico. I myself have my own car insurance through Geico. I don't get in many accidents. But if you ever talk to somebody who does what I do, but on the car insurance side of things, usually they'll tell you that if you got in any huge hot water, let's say, talking into a bill that's maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars for some reason due to an auto accident or an auto claim of sorts, they would tell you that Geico has very much limitations and caps on the protection. Now, this probably isn't the case all the time. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not an expert. But that has never stopped people from purchasing their plans. They, like I said, are one of the premier names in the car and auto insurance industry. Same can be true in other types of insurance. Final expense and burial coverage being no different. Now, like I mentioned in segment 1, burial coverage, final expense coverage are types of whole life insurance. They're small little whole life plans that are usually going to cover you for typically anywhere between $5,000 to maybe $30,000 or $40,000. They're very, very simple plans. You pick a beneficiary. Your beneficiary gets the death amount. The death amount could be $10,000, $20,000, whatever. Now, depending on the type of burial you want to get, a burial in the United States is probably going to cost you anywhere between $6,000, $7,000, as high as maybe $15,000. It just depends on what you particularly want. Caskets aren't cheap. Even if you get cremated, you're probably looking at about $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, roughly in that ballpark. So, I have always been a big believer that you are better off having some kind of life insurance than none whatsoever, especially if you have family members and people that depend on you. But even if you don't have people that depend on you, it's probably better off to have it than nothing else, because if you have no protection, your family has to be the ones that to come up with the financial burdens of maybe burying you, and it might cost them $10,000. $10,000 they might not have. They could potentially go into debt for that. Now, the age-old argument has always been, why can't people just take the money that they were going to save in premiums and put it aside, and then they'd have that money there? In theory, that would work. The problem with that is people don't have self-discipline. If everybody did that, there would be no need for these types of policies, in my opinion. But people don't have any self-control. And I'm not just criticizing anybody particularly. I'm talking about myself too. I have life insurance policies. I have one of these specific policies that's specifically designed for children on my daughter. My daughter's 13 months old, folks. I have a $10,000 policy on her. I got it when she was 2 weeks old. I pay $20 to $30 a year for this policy. I have a life insurance policy myself. Now, it's a term, $1 million term. That's just because I'm still working. I have a career, a mortgage, bills. My family needs more than just enough to put me into the ground. Now, the argument against term insurance for people on Medicare, and that's what this audience is basically made up of, is people on Medicare. Now, not to say that term policies are bad. I think they're actually good. We do both. But the argument for a burial policy and a final expense policy are two things. Or the argument for them and an argument against a term, But it would be two things. Number one, what if your term expires? Let's say you get 75 years old and you picked it up at 65 and your term expires after 10 years. You don't want to keep the term. Sometimes term policies go up 10 times what the premium was. So if you're paying $100 a month for the term, it can go up to $1,000 a month. You're not going to keep that. That's insanity. And then let's say you've developed some health conditions and they won't take you, especially due to this COVID thing. This COVID thing has basically guaranteed that a majority of insurance companies won't take people over a certain age that may have prior. Now, that could be a temporary thing, but we don't know. The other thing is, with whole life, you're guaranteed to get it. And they're going to have less health questions as well. Term policies, especially when you're over 60 years old, is they're going to put you under a microscope. They're going to ask you a million health questions, and they're a little bit harder to qualify for. Usually when you get to Medicare age, sometimes, not all the time, this doesn't apply for everybody, but a lot of times people have bumps and bruises along the way, and it's basically one of those things that people need to just kind of accept sometimes and just kind of pick the best thing for what you can get at that point in time. So here's what I'd recommend in terms of a good burial policy opposed to a bad one. A good one is going to have no waiting periods. Now, you see all the ones on TV for no health questions. No health questions, guaranteed acceptance. I'm not going to say any company names, just because I don't want to get in trouble. But the ones you see them all the time. If I listed the names right now, all of you would have seen a commercial for them. Every single one of you that's listening, I guarantee it. Typically, in the fine print, they have 2 years of a waiting period, which basically means if something happens to you in the first 2 years, they refund you your premium. And a lot of times, that's it. Or they refund your beneficiary the premium, and that's it. So you're not really protected till 2 years in. That's number one. Number two, a lot of these big-name companies have a cutoff age. There's one in particular that's very popular that you see on TV all the time that everybody would recognize that has a cutoff age at age 80, if you read carefully. That's not good, folks. Other ones raise your premium up after 5 years. Let's be real, these are shit. The best policies have health questions and underwriting that you have to go through. Yes, I understand. Health questions, and if you can't pass health questions, you're better off getting one of the guaranteed issue policies than nothing. And we do offer some of those. But if you can pass the health questions, you're going to be better off, and this is why. You have same-day coverage, number one. You don't have to wait 2 years. You're covered from day one, 100%. Number two, you have basically no cutoff age, and your price stays the same and your benefits never go down. So your price never goes up, your benefits never go down. You have what you have, and it's going to stay that way until you reach age 100, or if something happens to you, whichever comes first. If you reach age 100 and let's say you have a $10,000 policy, they'll pay you out the $10,000 personally, and you can do what you like with it. That is knowing what you got. That is being protected from day one. And I think that's the better way to go about it. I always tell people I'd rather have some life insurance and some protection than nothing whatsoever. Because what we know about life is it's unpredictable. If we could basically predict everything that was going to go forward in life, I would be worth $150,000, or I'd be probably worth $150 million right now because I'd be great at picking stocks because I could look into the future. But I can't. Nobody knows what's going to happen to us. I could be driving home tonight and someone could just be looking at their phone, texting, and crash right into me, and that's the end of me. This is why we need protection. This is why we need quality protection. And everything. That's my entire book, The Insurance Funnel, is about. Picking protection, but making sure that it's worthy protection of you and what you need protected. And it's a good deal for you, but you do need the protection nonetheless. Anyway, folks, thanks for spending some time with me today. I really enjoyed being back. We're going to be back on our normal schedule. Episodes on Wednesday and Saturday. And as always, if you'd like to reach out to our office, if you ever need some help on your plans, our office number is 801-255-5340, 801-255-5340. Just ask for Christian. I'd always love to talk to you. Until next time, folks, thank you so much for being here with me. And until next time, take care.